Hello again. Chris Lee and Chase Robinson here to preview and predict outcomes for South Carolina's road trip to Oklahoma. You can catch that 11:45 Central on the SEC Network. BetOnline favors Oklahoma by 2.5 with an over-under of 40, which makes for a predicted final of somewhere in the neighborhood of 22-19 in OU's favor. My model's got Oklahoma by 5.5. Oklahoma, Chase, just cannot get well. Last week it was top 5 receivers missing a game against Texas. Oklahoma held in there for about half a quarter because its defense is stout, but it just can't move the ball. And it certainly wasn't going to be moving it against Texas under that scenario. South Carolina, in the meantime, on the verge of getting buried by Alabama, comes back, makes it super interesting. Touchdown to Nyck Harbor late, and then gets an onside kick. Can't finish the game, though. Very interesting game between two teams that are very flawed at this point, as a lot of that beyond their control, but both very competitive and interesting week to week.
It is, and that's what makes this game intriguing to me. And the fact that Oklahoma's just been bombarded with injuries this year, and again, things out of their control, has made it a tough season. We looked at the roster going in, we said, "Wow, this is a team that can win some games, make some noise," but injuries hasn't worked that way for them. So
Yeah.
this is a very interesting matchup with South Carolina coming off of the 2-point loss to Alabama, which a game I thought they did some really good things in, and they're going to be looking to bounce back, as is Oklahoma. So I'm very interested in this matchup.
Yeah, the team we were describing in preseason and the team Oklahoma has now, two very different teams. Again, a lot
Yes.
of that just due to bad injuries, which they've had the worst issue with of any team in the league. Let's talk about the visiting Gamecocks when they've got the ball. South Carolina is scoring 27.5 points a game on 71 offensive snaps, which is a lot. A turnover rate, 2.8%. That is the worst in the conference outside of Auburn. Of course, fumbles have been an issue. I believe Carolina has lost 8 this year. The Gamecocks will run it 56% of the time, 5.1 yards per rushing play. That takes sacks out of rushing plays and puts them on passing plays, where Carolina is also averaging 5.1 yards per pass. Oklahoma's defense, very, very good, giving up 19 points a game on 67 snaps, a 3.5% turnover rate that leads the league. Now, a lot of this did come early against overmatched opponents, so keep that in mind. Teams will run it 53% of the time against Oklahoma, which gives up 3.9 yards per rushing play and 6.4 per passing play for a total of 5.1 yards per play. So each team 5.1 yards per play in this offensive and defensive matchup, where Carolina has done some great things at times and really struggled at other times with turnovers and just the passing game in general.
Yeah, they have, and it has. We haven't seen much consistency. That's a problem. They need to be consistent, and especially facing a defense that they're going to face here with Oklahoma. But you look at a couple of the drives that South Carolina was able to string together against Alabama. They had one 16-play drive where they converted 5 third downs and were able to put points on the board. And so I thought that was really good what South Carolina was able to do and get the run game going. They were able to get into the secondary of Alabama a couple times and have a couple of guys wide open. And I thought it was good to get Nyck Harbor in the end zone for a touchdown and him being aware and getting his foot down and getting that score. And so I think South Carolina has done some good things offensively, and get Rocket Sanders involved as he continues to progress from injury. LaNorris Sellers moving the ball and the way he can run and as versatile as he is. I think South Carolina does some good things and can do some good things even against this good defense of Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think if you're Carolina, you want to get Sellers and Rocket Sanders moving. Sanders has looked really good at times, had 78 yards last week and 16 carries against Alabama and a score. Sellers is big a quarterback, as you will see among quarterbacks who are rushing threats. But again, turnovers have been an issue. You could see maybe even Robbie Ashford in spots who can also run the ball pretty well. Now, Oklahoma's front Grayson, Halton, those guys have been pretty good, but they're just put behind the 8 ball time and time and time again. We talked about the back 7 with Billy Bowman and Stutsman. And I think one thing that concerns me if you're South Carolina is that turnover rate. You're turning it over a lot against a team that takes it away a lot and can sometimes bring it back for you the other way for 6. But before we talk about the other side of the matchup, let's get to this. We are presented by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything sports betting. Every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. With the largest catalog of odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, NBA, and political props. Chase, they have a over-under on turnovers or defensive scores in this game. And would you take a defensive score in this game for either one of these
I would take
teams?
a defensive score in this game.
Yeah.
I think so. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
I feel like that could happen. We'll see if you can bet on that at BetOnline. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino, get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to the website today, get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Well, I think this is an interesting side of the matchup because this is strength on weakness for South Carolina. The Gamecocks, we've talked about that pass rush. Really good players up front and in the secondary. They just had so many guys make plays in the defensive backfield last week against Alabama. Carolina giving up just 20.3 points a game. And keep in mind some of the offenses they played so far. LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama. So those are terrific numbers for the Gamecocks. They forced turnovers 3.1% of the time. I think that's second behind just Oklahoma. Teams run it 50% of the time, 4.2 yards per rushing play, 5 even per passing play. And Oklahoma's offense, boy, this has not been pretty. 24.3 points a game on 64 snaps, a 1.8% turnover rate. Teams run it, Oklahoma runs it 51% of the time, 4.3 yards per rushing play, 4.7 per passing, 4.5 across the board on all offensive snaps. You've seen Michael Hawkins kind of come into his own a little bit more at times, but man, he just had his hands full against Texas without a lot of weapons. That didn't end well. He's got a very similar task this week against South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's where the difference of the game, I think, could be, Chris, and that is this pass rush of South Carolina. Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart kind of leading the charge there. Kennard had a safety, 2 sacks, 6 tackles, and 3 tackles for loss against Alabama. And Dylan Stewart did a great job as well, putting pressure on Jalen Milroe. He was not able to sit into the pocket. So here's where I think the game could change if they're putting pressure on Michael Hawkins and this offense of Oklahoma and not allowing them any time to make a decision, any time to run the football. I think that could be the difference of this game. Look, the defense of South Carolina did a great job of containing one of the best players in SEC football right now, Ryan Williams. He only had 32 yards on 4 catches. And they did a good job containing Milroe at times, forcing him to make decisions and turn the ball over as well. So, I think that could be the difference, just the pressure that South Carolina brings on Oklahoma, just the not allowing them time to get any offense going. I think that could be big for South Carolina.
Let's get into picks and why, and I'll start with you.
I think South Carolina goes on the road. Based off what I saw last week against Alabama, I think South Carolina is going to go on the road and win this game. It's 2 really good defensive teams here. I think Oklahoma has a great defense and can stop South Carolina. And I also think this South Carolina pass rush can do some damage on Oklahoma. I've got South Carolina winning this one. I think it could be a tough defensive battle, but I think the Gamecocks in the end have got the strength offensively to get it done there in Norman.
Yeah, look, I love both defenses, but I think it's going to come down to offense and who do you trust to make a play more. We have seen some good things out of Michael Hawkins at times in that Auburn game. He made some plays that helped him win. And Carolina's have been really spotty, Chase. I mean, this could go a lot of ways. It could be a disaster where they turn it over 4 or 5 times and they get beat, 30-10. But I trust the Gamecocks to make a play more. I think Rocket Sanders has shown some things, like him as the best running back on the field. Sellers could just do so much. He's a running threat. He's a big guy. They can make some plays in the passing game. And hey, did we see a little bit of a breakout moment for Nyck Harbor last week? He's been a little bit of a mystery. I guess it's not a mystery. He's not that experienced at football, but he's an untapped talent is a better way to say it. In the end, and I know Oklahoma hadn't caught a break all year with injuries. I feel like South Carolina hadn't caught some breaks on the field. That LSU game was there for the taking. A couple calls went against them. Alabama could have gone their way. Didn't go their way. I think this one goes South Carolina's way. Give me the Gamecocks to win this one in Norman. All right, we'll be here to wrap it up afterwards. Best way to get that, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. We do football, baseball, and basketball content year-round. And Caroline.Smith@southeastern14.com is where you direct your advertising inquiries, and we do reach hundreds of thousands, actually millions of people per year. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching Southeastern 16, presented by Bet Online.